Welcome to Neil Royal, House of Pricey Cardboard. Please enjoy your stay.
Today, on episode 14 of Commander Gameplay, we have another game with Mathieu, but this time he is joined by Jenny, as well as Kelly, and myself. Before we get to the gameplay, I want to shout out the two first Patreons of this channel, Yannick and Davey F. Jones. Your support means a lot and encourage myself to push more every new video. If you want to join them in the best in the West, check the link in the description. Now back to the game. Mathieu is playing Saskia, the Unyielding. The idea in this list is to cheat big impactful creatures and deal a ton of damage. Welcome to Green Angry Kalia. Jenny will be playing Azusa, Lost but Seeking. This powerful land drop deck wants to ramp fast, drop big creatures, and then draw a ton of cards from its creatures to then land drop more, and you get the idea. Kelly will be playing Tuvasa the Sunlit. This is an Enchantress deck not built around Voltron, but more about getting value for every card she casts. She has an Angel sub-theme to help close the game. Finally, I'll be playing the Scarab God. My sweet OG deck was on the shelf for a while, but I've started to play with it a bit more. It's a zombie tribal with pretty optimized Dimir control. I want to swing with a lot of zombies or sit back and scry my life away. My opening hand contains Eugene the Ineffable, Ashiok Dream Render, Command Tower, Choked Estuary, Dented Isle, and a basic swamp. This is not an optimal hand, I was already down a card, but at least I have enough lands for the early turns. A turn 3 Ashiok can slow down my 3 green opponents if they don't have early creatures. Kelly's opening hand contains Recruiter of the Guard, Ajani's Chosen, Sigil of the Empty Throne, Bear Umbra, Breeding Pool, a Forest, and a Plain. Not the fastest hand, but she has every color in her hand and some really strong pieces. Tuvasa on turn 3, enchanting it with Bear Umbra turn 4 to untap the land seems like a reasonable line of play. Jenny's opening hand contains Platinum Empyrean, Duplicant, Harmonize, Acidic Slime, and 3 basic forests. Ramping into a 3 CMC commander is harder since you need to ramp on turn 1, so this will likely be a turn 3 Azusa. If she draws more land in the first turns, she'll be able to drop them. For the later turns, she has a lot of interactions. Mathieu's opening hand contains Sunspur's Invocation, Mythos of Nitroy, Fervor, Caves of Kolios, Ancient Ziggurat, Mana Confluence, and a Temple Garden. A little bit like Kelly, nothing crazy fast, but he has early play and interaction and enough mana to cast his commander. Jenny starts this match and land drops a basic forest. Mathieu land drops a Temple Garden tapped. Kelly land drops a Breeding Pool tapped as well. I land drop Choked Estuary and decide to not reveal any land. Jenny land drops a forest, Mathieu land drops Caves of Kolios. Kelly land drops a forest and then casts Rampant Growth, fetching a plains to her battlefield. I land drop a swamp. Jenny land drops a forest and casts her commander, Azusa, Lost but Seeking.
Whenever I set my pack and rest my head, I am home.
She is then allowed to land drop 2 more times, but only have 1 forest in hand. Mathieu land drops a Mana Confluence. He then casts Fervor, granting haste to all his future creatures. Kelly land drops a Plain and casts Ajani's Chosen. I land drop a Watery Grave tapped. I questioned myself if I want to play my Ashiok, but with Ace on Mathieu's side and Kelly having a creature already, my Planewalker would not live long. We know that Jenny has no more lands in hand, so as long as she can't fetch multiple lands to her hand, we'll be good. Jenny land drops a Bunder's Enclave, and then casts Seek the Horizon. I know. She can then land drop 2 more basic forests and pass. Mathieu land drops his Ancient Ziggurat, and plays commander, Saskia, the Unyielding.
You heard the chief, she wants them dead!
Entering the battlefield, Saskia targets Kelly with her Evil Finger of Death. He goes into combat and sends Saskia to me. Kelly takes 3 points of damage as well. Kelly land drops a Crossand Verge. She casts Citizen Champion. I land drop a Nykthos Shrine to Nyx, and having the slowest game in the history of Scarab God, I cast Wonder. Jenny land drops a Snow-Covered Forest and a regular forest. She casts Platinum Empyrean, which is just great. Mathieu casts Shaman of Forgotten Ways, and he remembers that he meant to change the Ziggurat and the Shaman to get non-conditional mana. Oops. He goes to combat again, and sends Saskia to Kelly. She takes double damage, but only 3 as commander. He ends his turn, missing his land drop. Kelly casts Recruiter of the Guard, fetching Eidolon of Blossoms. The value is getting real on this side of the board. I then drop a basic swamp. I then cast Solemn Simulacrum for a snow-covered swamp. If this game was a race, Jenny would be Usain Bolt, Kelly would be jogging, and I'm just there, walking. Jenny untaps and casts Return of the Wild Speaker for some more gas. She draws 8 cards and then drops 2 forests and a scavenger grounds. She then casts a Zendikar Resurgent and suddenly we're playing Archenemy. Mathieu casts his Soul Ring. He goes to combat and sends Saskia to Kelly. She blocks with the Recruiter of the Guard. Kelly casts Beast Within on the Platinum Imperium and end her turn. I then drop a Tented Isle and cast Eugene the Ineffable. I -3 my Planeswalker to destroy Zendikar Resurgent, somewhat resetting Jani's lead. Jani then drops a Hall of Bandit Lord, tapped. She casts Thunderfoot Bada. After that, she casts Garruk Primal Hunter. She +1 Garruk, creating a 3/3, now 5/5 Trampled Beast. Mathieu then drops a Spire Guardian. He casts Sunbird's Invocation. Kelly then drops a Forest, and she casts her commander, Tuvasa the Sunlit.
My people have always been here, and here we shall remain.
She then activates Crescent Verge for Canopy Vista and Prairie Stream on her battlefield. I then drop a Command Tower. I then +1 Eugene to create a 2/2 spirit that will draw me the card when it leaves the battlefield. I go to combat and send Wonder into Garruk. I then cast Hostage Taker. Entering the battlefield, I target the Thunderfoot Ballot. It will be exiled until Hostage Taker leaves the battlefield or if I cast it. After that, I cast my sweet Ashiok Dream Render. I decide to -1 Ashiok, milling myself for 4 and exiling my opponent's graveyards. I mill Shizo, Death's Storehouse, Disallow, Siddhi Undead Vizier, and Kalitao's Treasure of Geth. Jenny then drops a forest, and she casts Harmonize. She then drops a second forest and +1 her Planeswalker to create a 3/3 beast. She casts Eldrazi Conscription on one of the older beasts. I think it's payback time. She head into combat and send the Eldrazi beast to me. I do not block since it has Trample anyway and sacrifice Wonder and the Spirit to Annihilator 2. Mathieu then drops Hooded Foothills. He casts Nullspine Dragon and does not use its ETB ability. Sunbird's Invocation triggers and he casts Selvala Stampede from his top 7. He then votes for Wild while we vote for Free, as we should. He puts to the battlefield Regal Behemoth from his deck, becoming the Monarch, and Xenagos God of Revels from his hand, having no other permanents. He goes into combat and put the Xenagos trigger on the Tremply Dinosaur. Regal Behemoth head to Ashiok, Nullspine Dragon to Garruk, and Saskia plus Xenagos to me. I block Xenagos with Solemn, and I take 3 points of damage. And so does Kelly. I draw a card from my Sad Robot Dying, and Mathieu crack his fetchland for Sacred Foundry untapped. He then draws at the end step from the Monarch and passes turn. Kelly then drops a Plains. She casts Bear Umbra on her commander. She creates a cat and draws 2 cards as well as putting a +1/+1 counter on the champion. After that, she casts Ancestral Mask on Ajani's Chosen, creating a second cat and drawing 1 this time. She head into combat and sent Tuvasa plus Ajani's Chosen to Mathieu. He blocked the Chosen with Saskia, taking 5 damage from Tuvasa. On attack, Bear Umbra triggers and untap Kelly's lands. She also becomes the Monarch. She casts Eidolon of Blossoms, she creates a cat and draws 2 as the Eidolon is a constellation trigger and triggers on himself. At the end step, she draws from her Monarchy. I then drop a Swamp. I cast my commander, the Scarab God.
The hour of eternity is upon us.
I then +1 Eugene to create a 2/2 spirit. I activate my commander to exile CDC Undead Vizier from my graveyard. When its token copy enters the battlefield, I exploit my Hostage Taker to give back the Thunderfoot Ballot to Jenny. I'm trying to both make a friend and send some attack power in Mathieu's direction. I also fetch a card to my hand. Jenny then drops a forest. She casts Eternal Witness and brings back her beloved Garruk Primal Hunter to her hand. She then casts Garruk. In reaction, Mathieu casts Mythos of Nitroi on the Eldrazi Beast. He looks at his top 3 for Sunbirds but does not find a valid target. Jenny -3 Garruk to draw 7 cards. She then drops 3 more lands, which is Heresy since she already dropped one earlier. She then casts Sylvan Library. She follows it up with Acidic Slime. Entering the battlefield, it destroys the Sunbird's invocation. She then casts Abundance, which is pretty good with Sylvan Library. Heading into combat, Acidic Slime goes to Kelly, who blocks with a cat token. They did not think about the trample on the Death Touch Slime. And the Thunderfoot Ballot goes to Matthew. Matthew casts See the Unwritten. He looks at his top 8 and reveals Archangel, Avacyn, and no other creatures. It's still pretty good for 6 mana. He goes to combat and Xenagos doubles Avacyn's power. He sends Avacyn and the Gnome-Spine to Kelly for 23 points of damage. Matthew becomes the Monarch and draws at his end step. Kelly then drops a Forest and casts Soul Ring. She then casts Shalai, Voice of Plenty. She follows it up with Grasp of Fate. Kelly draws 2 on cast and creates a cat token. She then drops 1 with the Constellation trigger. Avacyn, Sylvan Library, and my CDC token gets exiled under the enchantment. She then casts Elephant Grass, drawing 2 and creating a cat. After that, she casts Helm of the Gods and equip it to Shalai. Going to combat, she sends Tuvasa to me, which I blocked with Eugene's Spirit. Berumbra still triggers and untaps her lands. She casts Sigarda, Host of Herons, and pass. At my upkeep, I eternalize Kalitas into a 4/4 zombie. I then scry 1 and my opponents lose 1. I cast Dimir Signet for free because of Eugene reduction, and then drop an exotic orchard. I cast Lord of the Undead, and +1 Eugene for a 2/2 spirit. Heading into combat, I send the Flying Scarab God to Jenny for 5 points of damage. At her draw step, Jenny calls non-land and reveals Asceticism. She then drops Zalfirin Void and scries 1. She then casts the Great Henge for a whopping 2 mana. After that, she casts Asceticism, and follow it up with a Duplicant. Entering the battlefield, Jenny targets the Gnome-Spine Dragon, and, reacting to the ability, Matthew casts Heroic Intervention. Great Henge triggers on the Duplicant, putting a +1/+1 counter and drawing a card. She then casts Nissa, who shakes the world. For her combat step, Acidic Slime eats 4 of Kelly's cat tokens, 2 beasts are sent to me, and Thunderfoot Ballot goes to Matthew, who blocks with Xenagos and the still indestructible Regal Behemoth. The Ballot dies and gets exiled by Kalitas, granting me with a fresh new zombie token. Matthew recasts Saskia. Entering the battlefield, he targets me with the finger. He goes to combat and puts Xenagos' trigger on Regal Behemoth. He sends the Behemoth to me, and I block with Kalitas, the zombie token, and the spirit. He sends Gnome-Spine Dragon to Jenny, and she declares no blockers. Before going to damage, Matthew casts Anguished Unmaking, targeting Kalitas. In reaction, I activate Scarab God to bring back the Stage Taker. I use its ETB to exile Matthew's commander, which he put into the command zone. I then take 5 and Jenny takes 7. Kelly pays the cumulative upkeep of her Elephant Grass. She casts Unquestioned Authority on Tuvasa, bringing my survival chances to 0. She draws 3 and creates a cat. After that, she casts Sigil of the Empty Throne, drawing 2 and creating a cat. Still not done, she casts Stirring Grove, drawing 2 and creating a cat plus an angel. She then goes into combat. She sends Tuvasa to me and Sigarda to Nissa, taking me out of the game. Berumbra triggers and she untaps her lands. She then casts Enlightened Tutor, putting Flickering Ward on top of her deck. She then casts the original commander, Estrid the Mask. She +2 the Planeswalker to untap Tuvasa, which is her only enchanted permanent. Jenny calls non-land on her draw. She reveals Ulamog the Infinite Gyre. She casts Ulamog. With the cast trigger, she destroys Shaman of Forgotten Ways. She gained 2 life from the Great Henge, and casts Bane of Progress, attempting at Kelly's whole career. Kelly reacts with Disallow, not too keen on the idea of losing everything. The spell is then countered, and Jenny +1 Nissa to make a land into a creature. She follows it up with an overwhelming Stampede, granting +10/+10 to her board. She heads into combat, and sending Acidic Slime plus Azusa to Matthew, and the rest to Kelly, taking both out of the game even with blocks. Looking back at this game, I think everybody had a time to shine, with me being more of the underdog. But at this point, Scarab's reputation is enough to be treated like a threat. Jenny had an amazing start. She drew the right cards at the right time to get a ton of mana and started to drop bombs as soon as turn 5. But with some removal and teamwork around the table, we slowed her down. Then we had Mathieu get a lot of value from Sunbird's invocation, which Jenny put a stop to in the later turns. To then let Kelly develop a big board of permanents. Kelly got a lot of damage from Mathieu, and this has definitely played in Jenny's favor. Another play that made a big difference was how Nissa survived at 1 loyalty, providing double green mana for Jenny's last turn. Kelly was afraid of the crackback from Mathieu, but didn't think that the game would be over with so much mana. And that's gonna be it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed and consider subscribing to see our future content. We're on a nice streak of weekly gameplay uploads, so you don't want to miss out. See you soon and take care.